Newsfirst, NEWSLINE with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline Live. We're broadcasting, as always, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, which, of course, is next door to the Maharaja head office, of which we are part of. Now then, with this ongoing coronavirus, COVID-19, and its impact on Sri Lanka's economy in particular, we thought we'd get an economist who just happens also to be a politician. But really today we want to talk the economics of it all. So to answer our question, which is, what is the impact of COVID-19 on an already shaky economy? We've got with us here Dr. Harsha De Silva. Very good morning to you, Dr. Harsha.
Good morning, Faraz.
Thank you very much for being on, coming on the program and trying to put some perspective into this whole business with, from an economic point of view. What is this impact going to be, Dr. Harsha, on our economy, which is already shaky?
I'm worried. I'm really worried.
Okay.
Worried for multiple reasons. I think what you said, what is the impact going to be on an already shaky economy?
Yeah.
That's the real question. Now, the government will have to come in a big way to help out the citizens.
Right.
Right? I mean, citizens can't go to work. They have to, get by with what they have.
Yeah.
And then if you look at people's savings, how much do they have in banks? And if you start looking at small businesses, folks who are in what are called micro businesses, one-person businesses, getting by with, their daily wages, working in the tourism sector and, associated areas, soon people are going to find it difficult to make ends meet.
How important in an overall economic situation is it necessary to have savings?
I mean, it's always for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we were told.
Yeah.
Save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Now, with the whole culture changing, I mean, when my father built his house, I don't know, what kind of loan he took out. It was a small loan. Because, they saved and they were able to pay back that loan, even whatever they took with the savings they were able to make. But when we built our houses, that was a different story.
Which was when? How long ago do you think? 15 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, okay, I built my house 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But and today, can people even think of saving to build a house?
I think it's not possible.
It's not possible. So that's my point. My point is that, people's savings habits, the way people live on credit cards, that they borrow so that they can pay off tomorrow, is really the way in which society has sort of, evolved.
Yeah.
And, credit has become it's just normal.
It's like normal.
I mean, people go to the grocery store and pay with a credit card. I mean, it was not seen then, but it is very common today. Right?
But even those days, you'd have an arrangement with the local shop.
Yeah.
But I think that was more one of convenience than anything else.
That's right. I mean, even in the kade down the road, there's a little pota and the mudalari writes it.
Yes.
No, my point is, where are people going to be able to find the money to survive? That's the question, right?
Right.
So I'm just starting out at the bottom, right? Okay. Now, the U.S. government said yesterday, look, why don't we, I mean, the proposal is, why don't you shut down for a whole month, right? And then the government will sort of help out, right? And generally what people are, what they're saying is, okay, any operation can survive a month, but beyond a month might be difficult, right? So if you, I don't know, the central bank and the treasury will have to do some analysis to figure out, you know, what that time period is for this country. But I doubt very much the window we have is sufficient. So
well, that's the question. Now, if you took the UK, it's a nearly 2.7, but let's say $2.6 trillion economy, and the government there have announced overall package, if you like, of 350 billion pounds sterling.
Actually, it's more. I think it's they enhanced it. I think it's like over 500 now.
Now, the thing is that they can probably afford to do this. They've closed schools, but they want certain people to go to some children to go to school. For example, people of essential services, like the drivers and so on, delivery people, their children need to go to school because there'll be no one at home to look after them. And so there's all these special measures from a financial perspective. So, but they appear to be able to do that because they have that much of a big economy.
Yeah, I mean, the US is trying to pump in 1.3 trillion.
That's right. So,
right? But the point is this: the announcement of a 1.3 trillion, and yet the markets tanked. Right? So why did the markets tank? Because the markets believe that is not sufficient. Right? So India, I was reading, Modi has said it's going to go in for a complete curfew, and I don't know for how long. So coming back to the point is that certainly my argument is people's savings are not going to be sufficient for them to survive over a period.
So what's going to happen, Harsha?
Yeah, so if you look around the world, what's happening is countries are urging people to work from home or stay at home, what have you, and then the governments are looking after the citizens. So you can't have it both ways, right? So either you don't work and you are being looked after, or you go to work and you look after yourself. Now, in the first case, do we have the money to do it? Even last time when I was on your show, Faraz, what I said is whatever criticisms people had of Mangala, he was able to build a surplus on the current account of the budget. He did that because he was responsible with taxes. He got criticized a lot, but after 30, 40 years, he was able to turn it around. I mean, these are facts on the ground, right? Which means if you take the interest payment out, he had a surplus on the daily revenue and expenditure.
Harsha, you think about these. The hotels, I mean, during last Easter, after the tax then, the hotels were empty, but they just sort of started raising their head up. Now we're having a situation where we're not letting people to come into our country.
Yeah, so but before I go to that, Faraz, what I was saying is that there was a surplus in the treasury, right? Now he did that, so after the 21 April bombs, those sectors were given moratorium, and also they were given soft loans and all of that, right? Leave that aside for a moment. But what I'm saying is, on the whole, when the government changed, right, it was on a decent footing. And I'm not talking about this as a politician. I'm talking about this purely as an economist, right? Yes, there was a slowdown. Yes, the revenue targets were not met due to the Easter attacks. Yet,
and the exchange rate went south?
Yeah, but then those adjusted. You know, in fact, in 2019, the Sri Lanka rupee appreciated against the US dollar, if you recall. That's another story. So then what happened was what I call a purely politically motivated decision. The president's office changed suddenly, taxes without a proper analysis by the Treasury, and I'm saying this with responsibility. Now, then the government said, look, we might run short of about 200 billion rupees in revenue, right? That would be the shortfall. But now I understand they are saying it might be 500 billion rupees revenue
Because
shortfall.
nobody anticipated COVID-19.
This is what I'm saying. So you already took a big risk by, sort of letting yourself lose.
So the exposure was greater.
Exposure was greater because no one expected COVID-19, right? So you are taking a huge risk, a massive risk.
But now that that's done,
Yeah.
now what now?
Yeah, so the point is, now this has come in, right? So this has come in Sinhala you say, gahin weticha miniyata gona yanna wage.
Yeah.
Right? So now the government has to really sit down and think, how are we going to deal with it? The rupee is going through the roof.
Yeah.
All right? 188, you're looking at 190, in a matter of days, I believe. So in order to try and curb that, to hold that, the government, central bank last evening introduced a whole bunch of measures.
Yes, like
you can't bring in cars, you can't bring in TVs, you can't bring in perfume, you can't bring in all
these
kinds
are
of
non-essential
tires, etc., etc. Non-essential items, quote unquote, right? I mean, if you have, anyway, I'm not going to argue that, right?
No, right.
And also they said you can only take out $5,000 out when you're going out, right? So those are very stringent measures the government has introduced. So that is to try and curb imports.
Yeah.
Okay. And they also said Sri Lankan banks cannot purchase international sovereign bonds, ISBs.
Right.
Now,
is that bad news?
Look what happened to the ISB. I mean, I'll show this to you, and you go crazy. I mean, what's happening to our bonds, right? Can I show this? Where can I show this?
We can show
it here.
Maybe you can show it on this.
Yeah, this.
Show it over this on your camera here. This one over here.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Right.
Can you?
Yeah. So you see this? Right. You see that? So that is.
So it's gone up like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is this is yesterday, right?
Yeah. So this keep it there. Let's see if we can zoom it in and have a look at it.
So basically, what we are saying here is, right? Right. So this is your.
There you go. Now that's
this is your ISB, right?
Yeah.
This is your ISB. The 10-year, 2030 bond.
Right.
Right. So a week ago, it was at 7.5%.
Right.
Now yesterday it is at 17.5%.
Right.
US dollar. Right.
Right.
The yield.
Right.
Is going up.
And now we can't buy them?
No. So the point is, now the $100 bond last traded at 82, right, which is at a big discount, and therefore this rising yield. Yesterday these were offered at 51, 52 to the 100.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, this is beyond, right? I mean, this goes beyond our realm of,
So what was their thinking then?
I mean, it's tanking, no? I mean, so the issue is then, Faraz, how are we going to raise the money? We got $4 billion to pay this year.
Yeah.
$4 billion, right? Because anyway, it was known 20 21,
we
22.
we knew that,
We
but
knew
nobody knew about COVID-19.
So the point is, that is why the Active Liability Management Act was passed
Yes,
last
that was
year.
a good thing.
Yeah, and which I was saying here,
Yeah.
right? About 2 weeks ago, I was saying this.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, we were, and then the US rates were coming down. It was at, now it is at 0.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I was telling you right here, right now,
Yes.
right here,
Yeah.
that the government has an opportunity to perhaps go and try and see if they can raise, right?
Right.
Now there is no chance. I mean, how can you borrow at 20% US dollar rates?
Indeed.
Right? So then, but we still need to do that. We still need to find the money to pay back loans this year. So,
Yeah.
so the challenges are,
Plenty.
plenty. Then, how do we look after the citizens? At the end of the day, the government's responsibility is to look after the citizen.
Right.
Right? That's the government's
bottom
job.
line.
That's the bottom line. We can talk about all these fancy markets and yield curves and all those things. It is immaterial to the man on the road,
Yeah.
or the small businessman. They're only concerned about how am I going to survive, right? So this is a defining moment, right? And the world, I think, will change. And supply chains have already got hugely disrupted and all that.
Yeah.
Now, your question about tourists and the restaurants, the hotels, the entire industry.
And the daily paid staff. Yesterday, I saw people selling vegetables. At one time, it was 60 rupees for 500 grams. And then, within minutes, as I was getting back in the car, I heard that it was going for 40 rupees. For 500, it was 80 rupees. You can have absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself that these are just dumping because they need the cash. So what about them? There's so many people here in our country who are dependent on daily wages. What do they do? What is the advice you can give the public?
Yeah, I mean, okay, this is the first time I'm saying this. I mean, politics, I'm putting my entire campaign on hold, right? There's no politics. And if the government thinks, right, that we can help, if the president wants, the government wants to use people like us, we are willing to help. I'm willing to help.
Right.
Right? So it is not...
No, we don't want any headlines screaming that Harshadis is crossing.
No. I'm just saying this. I was reading. Oh, there was my friend of mine, Matt Andrews, right?
Yeah.
He's a professor at the Kennedy School at Harvard.
Yeah.
He started a blog on leadership in crises. You know, how do you navigate a small boat in rough seas?
Yeah.
And he's looking at a bunch of traits of leaders who are able to manage or to weather the storm. The first thing he's saying is, don't try to do it by yourself. Right? Have people, a team, right? And delegate and so on. Now, on the one hand, I don't want to say it over and over again, but our 1990 source area is attending to maybe 95% of the cases.
Yes, I know, but Doctor, tell the people, what can they do now? I know that the control price of various things have been brought down and so on, but what do the people do? Well, they've got loans. Will the bank give everybody a moratorium on the loan?
No, you can't, no. I mean, the president said give everybody moratorium for 6 months.
Yeah.
But he said it more than 48 hours ago. But the central bank has not sent out any circular to the banks. See, the thing is, the president does not have the authority to
No, he doesn't, but
he doesn't.
he's made a request.
No, he ordered. You can't order.
Right.
Right? He can request the monetary board, and the monetary board has to do that. Now, look at the monetary board. Now, they are selling a loan at 20%.
Yeah.
Now they are saying sell the loan at 4%. That's what they're saying now.
Right.
And also don't recover.
Right.
Right? So you're getting hammered on both sides.
Yeah. How long can it go on?
I don't know. President said 6 months, but now who is gonna
Pay the difference.
pay the difference of 16%?
But can we say, can the banks absorb it because they've all made nice profits?
You see, I mean, you can get the state banks to do it because the people, I mean, the government owns them, but private banks, can you force the private bank to do it? I don't know.
But
right?
I mean, do you remember all these super gains taxes and all that business? So at that time, I think Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said, this is not political, I just want to say what he said. He said, look chaps, he said this at that AmCham meeting as soon as he became the Prime Minister. He said, look, I had to do these things because, you know, the economy is in a bad state, so I had to get you guys, I had to do that. So can't you do the same again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it is not possible. All what I'm saying is that it is the depositors' money in banks.
Yeah.
Right? So, say you take Bank X. Whose money is Bank X lending? Bank X is lending money that Bank X has got as deposits from a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
So they have to be responsible for their depositors.
Yeah.
So therefore, that is a fine line. So if the interest is going to be reduced, then an interest subsidy must be paid to the banks. That's how it always works.
Yeah.
You know, when we were in government also,
But
these kinds of things done.
Can any government in Sri Lanka afford to continue to do this? Or is it a question of just printing more money in the form of issuing more and more bonds?
So this is the issue. Then what happens is, look, there are bunch of things you need to sort of manage in the macro economy, right? I mean, I mean, let's look at the interest rates and the exchange rates, right? Now, exchange rates are going through the roof. So
It started from 130 and it became 180.
And then it came back down a bit, and then it's going up again, right? So now, I mean, there are two issues. One is long term because our exports had fallen. Right now, at least the exports are going up. The GSP plus has been, reobtained. But now there's another issue in Geneva about that. I don't want to get to that.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So if you want to, hold exchange rates, say you don't want it to go to 190, you want to bring it back down to 180, what do you have to do? You have to put dollars into the market. Right? I mean, there's no other way. The central bank will have to deplete its reserves and pour reserves, the US dollars into the market, right? So you put additional supply so that the demand is met by the additional supply. So to reduce the demand on dollars is what Governor Lakshman and others have said. You can't take out money, you can't purchase ISBs, you can't buy cars, you can't import fridges, you can't bring TVs, you can't bring perfume. So that's to control demand. On the supply side, central bank can...
You can't bring in non-sort of luxury items.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, this has happened in the past. When Mr. Cabral was governor, we threw in about, I think, close to $4 billion into the market to manage the rate at the rate that he wanted to. Mr. Mahendran, when he was the governor in 2015, did the same thing and burnt about close to about a similar amount of $3.5–4 billion, right? Now, it is always possible to do that, and because we have about $8 billion in reserves. Now, the issue is the future is bleak. We cannot see, beyond a week or two now, right? So if you take a big risk with that, what might happen, down the road, and where is the money? Because we got to pay $4 billion anyway in loans this year. Now the thing is, if you put US dollars into the market, Faraz, what that means is you're taking rupees out of the market.
Yeah.
Right? If rupees are taken out of the market, interest rates rise. Okay? Interest rates rise. Now the government, if it doesn't want interest rates to rise, okay,
Yeah.
they will then have to, what you just said, print money.
Yeah.
Or purchase bonds.
Yeah.
The central bank will purchase bonds and then pour LKR, rupees, back into the market. So you have rupees in the market, you got dollars in the market. You are trying to hold both.
Yeah.
Right? And then that will create instability. And it has created instability during Mr. Mandan's time. It has created instability during Mr. Cabral's time.
But during that time, what is in my mind is that when Mr. Cabral and company left the government, the interest rate was, the exchange rate of the dollar was about 131. And today it's, what, 188? But let's say it's 180.
Yeah.
There's 50 rupee depreciation there.
I mean, you can't, I mean, you have to look at both the short and the long term.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot continue to hold the value of a currency by force. It cannot happen.
Now, here's a question which I think will give the answer to the purpose of the program. In very simple terms, supposing Dr. Harsha is the decision maker, what would he do at this critical juncture? Say it in steps, please. 1, 2, 3, etc.
Yeah. First step, bring everybody together. Don't try to do this.
Who's everybody?
I mean, all the people who are aware, people who know, people who are at the top, professionals. Forget about politics.
Right.
Right. Forget about politics.
When the minute you said professionals, my mind goes to Vietmaga and all that business.
Whoever.
Forget that.
Forget
Okay.
all that.
All right.
Forget all that. Bring everybody together.
First step, togetherness.
Task force on the, fighting the economic crisis. Let the health care workers, the doctors, Dr. Jasingher, all of them
look at Corona.
Look at Corona.
Right.
Create another one to, deal with this issue, because this is going to be a bigger issue beyond the health, right? The big issue is going to be the economy.
Yeah.
Bring everybody together. Look at the real situation of the treasury, what is available, how much money we got to keep aside to pay debt.
Cut out the BS and get down to grips.
And just let's be honest, and work the numbers.
Right.
Right? Work the numbers and see, okay, this is what we have. 3, let's look at the immediate and the medium-term requirements of the people, okay? So contingency plan, scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, and so on.
Yeah.
If countries shut down for a week, if it is for a month, and so on. Who are the people at the edge, right? We have the data in the Census Bureau. We know how many people are on a daily wage. We know where they are, and so on and so forth. Understand the minimum requirement for people to survive. You see? And then next step, cut out everything that is not essential.
Including corruption.
Of course. Corrupt people will steal from the money they get for this also.
I'm going to go on about this because...
No, let me finish, right? Let me finish. And then let's work backwards. Deal with the folks who are at the margin, right? Who are going to go hungry. Right? Immediately ensure that those people have sufficient money in their hands.
How in a practical...
cash transfer.
Right.
Just do cash transfers.
Right, into their accounts.
Into their accounts. Cash transfers into their accounts. We have, we know who they are, right? And then do cash transfers. Let them, and then tell them, work from home if you can, and if the job
But are these people who clean the roads and who do gardening on the roads and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying be responsible and just, advise what needs to be done. But what I'm saying
is... So this would be the central government sending money directly to these people's account?
Yeah, it has happened in the past,
Yeah.
and you can do it. I mean, the Trudeau is sending money to everybody's home to pay for their gas and electricity and all of that, food and everything, right? So this is nothing new. India has done it in the past and so on. So what I'm saying is, start from the margin and cut out every non-essential expenditure. You know, if government folks can forego the things that they enjoy now, of course that's the
very
amount,
tiny amount.
very tiny amount, right? And then try to stimulate the economy, right?
Like how?
I mean,
Do we continue with the infrastructure development?
I mean,
but then it's so expensive.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Now, things like Mangala's Gamudava program, so where money went directly into the village or to the Grama Seva division, right? Try to create activity so that people don't have to move around and do something. But if worst case scenario, just do cash transfers and ask people to
as an emergency measure.
Yeah, social distance themselves. And then you got to worry then about the bigger, the infrastructure projects and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. So ideas will emerge, right? Don't make it political. Ideas will emerge.
But do we have money, Dr. Asher, to send people directly into their bank accounts, even if it's...
we have to do it, no?
We have to do it.
We have to. I mean,
so where are we going to cut down on then?
We'll have to cut down somewhere. That is what I'm saying. Let's look at prioritize every expenditure
So we have to
item.
put the Section 3 of the Central Expressway on hold, and I don't know, all sorts of other things where the government is having to pay.
Yes.
You have to put it on hold.
If that is what needs to be cut to make sure that the people have money to survive, then that is what they have to do, right? So you have to reprioritize in the short. I am not saying stop the Central Expressway.
No,
but what I'm
but
saying is,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm talking about infrastructure projects. But then what about all these companies who've been really hit over the last 4.5, 5 years now?
Yeah.
What about them? They owe money to the banks. The state banks already, the NPLs levels have gone up, and they're not. Some of these companies, and we've covered them here on News First. They've not paid all these monies that they owe the banks.
I mean, look at what happened during the financial crisis, right?
Yeah.
2008, when Merrill Lynch, all of them, Lehman Brothers crashed, and the whole thing, right? Remember AIG, right? The American insurance company, right? In the short term, the US government came in and took ownership of almost 90% of the world's largest insurance company and gave it back when things got sorted out. So they bailed out a bunch of companies. Now it's going to happen to Boeing. Watch me, right?
Yes, but what about here?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So here is no different from, we are not some special place,
Yes.
So you got to try and see what others are doing as well and learn from the successes of those countries.
Yeah.
So here also there has to be bailing out of certain industries, certain companies. I don't know to what extent it can be done, but we don't have a contingency fund. There is no contingency fund in the government. Right? There is no kitty that is, somewhere that nobody has.
One of our views is saying poor people all don't have bank accounts.
Yeah, if you don't have bank accounts, you can just give them money, right? I mean, give the Grama Sevaka and see, I'm not trying to...
Or they need to go and open a bank account. That's easy enough.
They can open a bank account. What I'm saying is it hasn't come to that. I'm not trying to scare anyone.
No, it's not scaremongering,
Right.
but we need to be prepared.
Yeah, we need to be prepared.
Because everybody, Dr. Harsha, is asking, now what do we do? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the same thing.
Yeah, so like I said, it has to be citizen-centric.
Yeah.
It has, the government's response, the economic response has to be focused on the household, right? And you start from there, right? And everything else should fall into place in order to ensure people are able to survive. You see? So, if you look at the Calcutta famine,
Yeah.
right? Lots of people died, right? And they died not because there wasn't food, right? Not because there wasn't grain. It is because they didn't know where it was, right? And there was no logistics arrangement to get people the food. I mean, it's very nicely articulated in the Markets of Information. In Amartya Sen's book, there's a long chapter on that. So now people are beginning to panic. And when people panic, they do irrational things, right? And why are people in the US lining up at the gun store to buy guns, right? You can't kill the virus with a gun. They have some other, thought going, that people will, jump into their homes and sort of ransack their food and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, people do irrational things. So we have to stay calm. We have to make sure people have the right information. I mean, if certain areas people are running short of food, all people are running short of food, we are working to, now I'm talking to people, how do you create a platform of volunteers, right? In your particular area, there may be old people, there may be people who are unable to go to the grocery store and get food.
Maybe Newsfirst will have to do a government sort of thing, but this time for transport and distribution of all that.
Yeah.
I can see this happening.
Yeah, so please, Faraz, I'm not fear-mongering, right? I'm just telling you, please, right? This is what I'm saying. There can be multiple, options possible, option, scenario A, B, C, and so on. So, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? And so
but all these factories producing things to be exported, they'll have to continue working.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading Susantha Ratnayaka had made a comment that some police officers had asked some apparel companies to shut down, and the government had said no, they didn't, order any such thing, and these factories will have to work to the extent possible because there are disruptions in the supply chain, and the raw materials are not coming because almost 20% of what we consume come from China. Almost slightly under 20% of intermediate goods come from China. Almost a third of our capital goods, machines, capital goods also come from China. So the Chinese slowdown, for the first time since 1976, China is going to go into a a recession, or not a recession, rather a negative growth they're expecting for the first quarter of this year. So that has already impacted the Sri Lankan exports, and there are complications everywhere. So we just need to think about our people first. We have to be selfish.
Sri Lanka first.
Sri Lanka first. Our people first. Figure out, let the health authorities fight that battle. Let the others who are in the know, experts, come together, keep politics aside, sit at one table, form a task force, and
will you be calling the president and telling him?
I already said.
You have already?
Yeah.
When?
Now.
Oh, on my program?
On your show.
Yeah. Okay, but to follow this up, will you sit down at home and type up a letter and deliver it to him?
Well, I mean, I once typed up a letter and delivered it to him on how he should proceed with 1990 Suvasaria. He didn't respond, but I met him face to face and I told him, and he responded brilliantly. So I have a lot of respect on that.
Right.
And look, you know, people criticized me when we got this going.
Yeah.
And
No,
today,
yeah, we all know. So
today,
like that, why can't you do something in the national way? Taking this matter is of grave national import, and therefore it has to be beyond party politics. We must transcend the political divide, should we not?
absolutely.
And we must all get together.
Sure.
So hopefully your Mac and the printer will be ready, and you send him off a letter. And then, when he doesn't respond, you will bump into him. That can be arranged too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm being honest. I mean, if they want, I mean, if my experience and, you know, whatever I have done, you know, what my thinking is of any use, please call. I'm always there.
And on that note, the party that you hope to contest, the symbol is the telephone.
Yeah.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Harshidi Silva, thank you very much for coming in, talking economics this morning. But you know what, I want to finish off on a lighter note. It has some serious meaning, but it is light. And please forgive me if you think it's anything else, but it's not. Do you know they talk about social distancing?
Yeah, don't go there.
Do you know where do you know the world champion of social distancing? I'll give you just 2 words, it's a name.
Yes, I know.
The world champion of social distancing has got to be Arjuna Mahendran. On that note, that's the way it was on Newsline Live. Take care, have a wonderful day ahead of you, and remember, we're all there together. God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.